Hi everyone and welcome back. So in today's video I'm doing a 3 marker challenge and I'm going to be using the 3 Copic colours for the month of April. And for those of you that maybe are new or that haven't seen my previous videos in this series, what this is every month the Copic company over on their social media accounts and pages are basically running a challenge of the month. They're picking 3 colours and then they're challenging artists to create a piece of artwork just using those 3 colours. And I believe according to like the official rules, you're allowed to use the colourless blender and you're allowed to use an outliner pen, and I believe you're also allowed to use the colour of the paper in your piece. So in my case I'm also using a white highlighter because white is the colour of my paper, so I'm just bringing that colour back in. But basically you're just using the 3 Copic markers to create a piece of artwork, and because Copics are my go-to medium, they're the colouring supply I use the most often, I thought it'd be fun to make this a series on my channel and to create a piece of artwork each month using those 3 colours that the Copic company are picking. And I decided to also challenge myself to not only just use the 3 colours but to create full page detailed illustrations. And I really wanted to create really detailed pieces with lots of elements, lots of design, and I had a few things I wanted to work on during the course of this series, and that's what I'm doing. And the other thing I wanted to mention before I talk about the colours for this month and my process for this piece is that this the line art for this piece is available as a colouring page. In fact, all the pieces that I've created in this series are all available as colouring pages. So if you like any of these pieces, you like this drawing here and you'd like to colour it yourself, there's a link in the description box below to my shop where you can find more information if you're interested. The 3 colours for April were E04, which is Lipstick Natural, E41, which is Pearl White, and E47, which is Dark Brown. And to be honest, when I first saw the 3 colours, it was over on Instagram I think, I saw the Copic announcement for the 3 colours for April, I was really surprised. And I think I was partly surprised because I felt so sure that Copic would pick spring-themed colours, you know, pastel yellows and pinks and greens or something like that. And I don't think I was the only one who was surprised. When I did the last video in this series, so the March episode, I asked you all in the comments below to leave me your guess as to what Copic would pick for the month of April, and almost overwhelmingly most of you guys were going for yellows, pinks, blues, you know, spring themed colours. So I guess that I was not the only one who was kind of surprised by these very vintage brown earth tone colours this month. Not that it makes any difference really, because I love all the colours that Copic has and I'm very happy to work with whatever they pick, because it's a challenge and it's good to work with colours that you may not normally work with. I think that's half of the point of this challenge, is that you use different sorts of colours. But anyway, so yeah, the colours were surprising, but once I had my 3 colours and I was swatching them out, I knew I wanted to do a vintage inspired piece. And one of the things that I've been doing with this challenge is I don't draw the piece that I'm going to create before I've seen the colours. So I always wait until I know what the colours are. If I need to order 1 or 2 of them in, I wait until I have my 3 colours before I start designing my piece. Because I feel like because of the detail that I'm trying to get in these illustrations, I really need to use the colours to the best of their advantage, and I feel like I can do that. I can match the theme of the colours to the piece and to make the whole illustration feel cohesive if I obviously wait till I see what the colours are and then draw the piece. And I find that that's been working very well at the moment. When I saw these 3 browns, I immediately I saw like a vintage photograph, even though the browns are not quite right for a sort of sepia toned photograph. That's the sort of vibe I got, so I went with that. And I drew this girl with an enormous Edwardian Victorian hat, and I drew a nice thick border. I did a sort of a wood grain effect in the very background. Then I drew this quite simple, but I wanted to have a simple but intricate pattern in the background. So I drew this semicircle pattern in the background. And in terms of outfit, I gave her a high lacy sort of collar neckline. And if you look at Edwardian or late Victorian, early Edwardian clothes and dresses, you often see that they have those high, often kind of like blouses that are made out of lace, and I was looking a lot at that when I was drawing. And then I also drew some puff sleeves, and I loved drawing the hat, and I kept a lot of ribbons. I wanted to have a lot of ribbons in this piece, so I did ribbons as embellishments, ribbons in her hat, and then I also did some vines and some flowers as well, just to kind of bring the piece together. And I do like this composition. I particularly liked these colours. I thought they went very well together. The colours were quite interesting. I found that these three colours were actually the easiest to work with out of all the ones that I've used so far for this challenge series. And I think that's because even though these three colours are part of the same colour family, in the Copic colour system these are all E's, so these are all earth tones, they're actually very different. Last month, for instance, I had three greens to work with, and they were really similar. They were very similar sorts of greens. There wasn't like a spring green, an emerald green and an olive green. They were all very similar. You can see that video to see what I'm talking about. But with these browns, the E41 was almost like a cream colour, and it also made quite a good skin tone as well, so I was able to get a little bit more of a realistic look for her in this particular piece. And then the E04, which is the Lipstick Natural, is almost pinky. It has like a pinky red undertone to it, so it was almost not like a brown at all when I was using it. I was reminded of some of the RV colours that I used in February for the February piece. Those two colours really contrasted with the dark brown, so I feel like I was able to get quite a lot more detail in this piece than I did particularly last month. I felt like last month was because they were all it was all green, it was very similar. For this piece I was able to get a lot of detail, and I was able to play around a lot more with the contrast and just sort of layer up the different colours. And because this piece had 4 different layers, you know, you have the very background, the wood grain, then the pattern, then her, there's also the border in there. I was able to sort of strategically place the colours in order to layer it up. And I find when working with pieces like this, it's best to keep the very background layer the palest and then work forwards, but also to keep shading to a minimum for the background layers. So the pieces, as you can see, the pieces that I shaded the most are the foreground elements. So her hat, the girl, the ribbon embellishments, all those sorts of things I did the most shading on. And then I left the pattern swatch and then the wood grain plain, so that the foreground elements would stand out more. And I found that that's quite a good tip. And I also actually left quite a lot of white in this piece, just because I felt like I wanted to bring the white out, and that's always very useful. So if you're doing a challenge like this, utilising the colour of your paper is actually quite important. It gives you an extra colour to work with almost. And I think this particular, if you were doing this challenge with, say, coloured pencils, you could use a toned tan paper or a grey tone paper, and that way you would have almost another colour to be able to bring through on top of the 3 colours that you're using. And in terms of sort of like layering on top of each other, I found I didn't tend to do a lot of that for this piece, and even though I had the colourless blender out, I didn't actually end up using it at all, because I'd found that the colours blended nicely together, but I didn't end up layering the colours on top of each other to create new tones. I find that if you layer a light Copic marker on top of a dark one, you wash the dark one out, and then if you layer a darker Copic marker on top of a lighter one, you just lose the colour completely, and it can wash the colours out quite a bit. So I didn't end up having to do that. And now I'm just going in and I'm adding some white highlights with the Posca paint pen, and I find that adding the white highlights really brings the piece together at the end. So that's my April Copic colour challenge piece. I really hope you liked this video. Why don't we have another try at guessing what May's Copic colours are going to be, and I'm going to go with yellow and blue again. I'm going to go with yellow and blue again for May, because I think they've got to do spring themed colours at some point, and I'm guessing that maybe in May they'll release some 3 spring themed colours. So I'm thinking yellow, maybe a light blue, and maybe a pink. Or maybe yellow, orange, and a green. I don't know. I'm just going with yellow again. I'm voting for yellow. You guys can leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think May's colours will be. Or maybe they'll do like mermaid. You know, Mermaid is coming up in May. Maybe they'll do like blues and some mermaid themed colours. It's difficult, it's difficult. You guys let me know what you think May's colours will be in the comments down below, and I will see you all next time.